There are the rules they teach you. And then there are the rules they never say out loud. The ones Machiavelli lived by. The kind that don't get written in leadership books because they're not designed to make you liked. They're designed to make you untouchable. See, most people think power is something you perform. Confidence, status, dominance. It's something you show, right? But Machiavelli understood something deeper. Real power is in what you withhold, especially when you're in public. Because when you're in public, you're not just being watched by people. You're being watched by opportunity, by reputation, and by rivals waiting for you to misstep. You don't rise by being impressive in public. You rise by being impeccable. And there are 9 emotional behaviors, subtle, deeply human things, that if you reveal even a little, will quietly shatter your mystique. Never complain in public. You might think complaining makes you relatable. It doesn't. To people with power, it makes you look weak. Machiavelli would say this: when you complain in public, you signal 2 fatal things. You're not in control, and you expect sympathy. Both are poison. Power belongs to those who suffer quietly, who take the hits and don't flinch. Because the moment you voice your frustration out loud, you've labeled yourself. You're no longer a threat. You're not even a mystery. You're someone who needs. And the world treats people who need something as tools. So when it hurts, stay silent. Let them wonder how you never blink. Never reveal your insecurity. Even if you're unsure, even if you're filled with doubt, do not say it out loud, not in public. Because the moment you admit something, people start to believe it, even if it was never true to begin with. Say, I'm not very good at this too often, and people stop trusting you. Say, I struggle with confidence, and people lower their expectations of you forever. Machiavelli knew this. Appearance shapes reality, and nothing kills your authority faster than you volunteering your own weakness. So even when you're unsure, hold the frame. Don't fake arrogance. Just own your space with calm, perfect posture. Let your doubt live inside you, invisible. Because what unsettles people isn't what you say, it's what you refuse to show. Never boast about your plans. You've seen it. People talking too loudly about their next big move, their hustle, their goals. Machiavelli would smile at them, then use that information against them. When you reveal your plans publicly, 2 things happen. 1, people feel no urgency to help you. You've already got it handled, right? 2, others now know exactly how to block you before you even begin. Announce nothing. Let your work speak after it's undeniable. Move in silence. Let success be a side effect. And when they ask what you're working on, just smile, shrug, offer nothing. Because real power, it accumulates in the dark. Never take public sides in petty conflicts. You might think backing someone up makes you look loyal. It doesn't. In public, it makes you predictable. Machiavelli warned leaders never to get involved in the disputes of others unless you gain something from the outcome. Otherwise, you're just collecting enemies with no reward. You're forming emotional alliances instead of strategic ones. Even worse, you're revealing your values before you have the power to protect them. Let others clash. Let them expose themselves. You observe. You calculate. You position. Because public neutrality isn't weakness. It's the preservation of future dominance. Never show hunger for attention. There's no greater smell in public than desperation, whether it's a forced laugh, an obvious attempt to be liked, or a thirst for validation. It's all the same. Once people sense you need it, you're done. Machiavelli believed the more you need others, the less they respect you. Especially when the need is psychological. When you walk into a room trying to be liked, you become replaceable. But walk in composed, centered, slightly distant, and suddenly you're magnetic. Why? Because you don't need the room, and that makes the room want you. Never break under pressure. You're in public. Something goes wrong. Someone attacks, challenges, accuses. Your body tightens, your voice shifts, your posture changes. You don't explode, but you leak. And people notice, even subconsciously. Machiavelli would never show tension. He'd absorb it. Not like a robot, but like an armor. When the world is pushing against you, your job is to still yourself. Because once people realize you don't flinch, you become a psychological landmark, a fixed point. They have to adjust themselves around. Never over-explain yourself. This is the fatal flaw of the reactive mind. You say something bold, it hits a nerve. You panic and start clarifying, defending, softening, and just like that, you've lost the frame. The crowd now owns your narrative. You're playing their game on their terms. Machiavelli didn't explain. He redirected. If someone demanded clarification, he'd smile and say, "Perhaps you misunderstood me." Or better, "Perhaps you understood me perfectly." Either way, he stays in control. So the next time you feel the urge to justify yourself, don't. Let silence make them question what they heard. Never reveal bitterness toward rejection. You get ignored, left out. Someone chooses someone else. It stings. You want to show it. Don't. Because public bitterness is like bleeding in shark-infested waters. It says, "I noticed, I care, and now I'm weakened." Machiavelli would call that emotional suicide. If you're rejected, respond with stillness. Not passive aggression, not fake laughter. Just a calm, clean detachment. Like someone just saved you the trouble of investing in the wrong thing. Because now they expect you to chase. But when you don't, they start chasing themselves. Never publicly criticize someone more powerful. Not because they don't deserve it, but because you don't benefit. If you attack someone above you, people will label you jealous, even if you're 100% right. And worse, the powerful will now see you as a problem to eliminate. So Machiavelli never struck first, not in public. He watched, he waited. Then, when the timing made the most impact, he'd expose the truth like a scalpel. So if you must criticize, do it strategically, quietly, through others, or when their fall is already happening. Because power isn't about being right. It's about knowing when being right is useful. Power isn't just about what you avoid. It's about what you replace. Because once you subtract weakness, a vacuum appears, and nature hates a vacuum. People will fill in the blanks, project meaning onto you. So if you don't design that projection carefully, someone else will. That's when your game shifts, from avoiding exposure to crafting dominance. Not through ego, not through aggression, but through precision, through presence, through selective revelation. Replace complaints with unreadable endurance. When most people face stress, they vent. They complain, share, overshare, trying to get sympathy points. But every complaint signals need, and need is repellent to power. Machiavelli wouldn't show the pain. He'd channel it. Because when you endure silently, you become a riddle, and people fear what they can't measure. If you're under pressure but appear unshaken, people imagine the storm you must be hiding. And worse, for them, they start asking, why isn't he breaking? What is he planning in return? You don't need to act happy. You don't need to act strong. You just need to remain emotionally unreadable. Let them project power onto your silence. Replace insecurity with strategic ambiguity. Insecurity is a signal. Ambiguity is a trap. The insecure explain themselves, they overshare, they ask for reassurance. But Machiavellian ambiguity, it's different. It keeps people guessing, on purpose. You don't say, I don't know what I'm doing. You say, I've got a few things in motion, and stop there. You don't say, I'm confused. You say, what's your take on this? And shift the spotlight. You're not pretending to know everything. You're making others unsure of what you know. Because once they believe you're playing a bigger game, they'll start second-guessing everything. And that hesitation is your advantage. Replace boasting with subtle power leaks. Real power doesn't brag. It slips into the room quietly. You don't tell people what you're building. They notice how protected your time is. You don't say you've succeeded. They see you unmoved while others celebrate. You don't declare yourself a leader. You simply become the one everyone looks to in uncertain moments. Machiavelli wouldn't list his accomplishments. He'd let them leak, accidentally on purpose. That's power. Not in the performance, but in the delay. Replace public loyalty gestures with quiet allegiance. People love making noise when they're on someone's side. Loud support, public praise, symbolic gestures. Machiavelli didn't play that game. Loyalty for him wasn't about applause. It was about leverage. Support people in private. Protect them where no one sees. That's the kind of loyalty that builds real trust. Because public displays are theater, and theater usually costs more than it gives back. Support in secret. Stand neutral in public. Now you're not a pawn, you're an unknown variable. That's what makes you dangerous. Replace attention-seeking with controlled withdrawal. You've heard it before. The loudest in the room is the weakest. But here's the real power move. Be present strategically. Don't speak just to fill silence. Wait until the moment is begging for your voice. Don't laugh because others are. Laugh when it breaks the tension. Don't stand in the center of the room. Stand just outside the spotlight and let attention drift to you. Why? Because humans are wired for contrast. When everyone's performing, the one who doesn't becomes the center of gravity. Replace breakdown with pre-planned stillness. When someone tries to rattle you, don't defend, don't attack, just hold your posture. Machiavelli would call it a preset stance, a moment of silence, a breath, a slow lean back, a stare. These are physical signals that break the tempo of the aggressor. They expect panic, they expect a fight. When you give them stillness, they collapse into their own performance. And you become the one who looks like he orchestrated the whole scene. Replace over-explaining with micro-mystery. The more you explain, the more people define you. But the less you speak, the more they project. And when people project onto you, you own their imagination. You don't need to say, I had my reasons. You say, it made sense to me. You don't say, here's why I did it. You say, let's see how it plays out. Now they're doing the work. They're assigning meaning that exceeds what you actually intended. Perfect. Because Machiavelli didn't want to be understood. He wanted to be interpreted. And interpretations are often more powerful than truth. Replace bitterness with a quiet exit. If someone dismisses you, ignores you, leaves you out, don't react, don't retaliate, just leave. But not in anger, in detachment. The person who exits without drama leaves behind discomfort. No explanation, no argument. Just gone. And now the room starts to ask, did we just lose something important? Did he know something we didn't? Was that a move? You've become scarce without injury. And that makes your return, if you ever return, 10 times more powerful. Replace criticism with delayed precision. You don't strike back when someone offends you. You wait. You observe. You learn where their armor is weak. Then, one day in a completely different context, you deliver a line so sharp, so surgical, that it looks like coincidence. But it's not. It's revenge, perfected by patience. Machiavelli wouldn't say, that man is weak. He'd let the man prove it publicly, then whisper a single phrase into the right ear at the right time. Because real power isn't loud. It's timed. And all of this, it builds a new identity. You're not just someone who avoids weakness. You're someone who broadcasts quiet strength. You don't show your cards. You don't announce your moves. You just sit, still and composed, while the rest of the room adjusts around you. That's how public perception turns into presence, and presence, once mastered, becomes your weapon. You're no longer just controlling yourself. You're controlling the air around you. Now you've learned the art of subtraction, how to remove the behaviors that betray you. But presence alone is defensive. Power begins when you use it. Machiavelli didn't just want control. He wanted to move through the world like a loaded weapon, not always fired, but always noticed. Use silence, not just as protection, but as a trap. There's a kind of silence that guards you, and a kind that lures people into revealing themselves. In public, don't always fill the void. Let the void fill them. When someone tries to provoke you, don't argue, don't respond. Just stare. Just wait. They'll talk more. They'll try harder. They'll start unraveling just to escape your stillness. That's the moment everyone else in the room sees the power dynamic flip. You didn't raise your voice. You didn't flex. You just watched them lose control. Machiavelli used silence as a weapon. Let others show who they are in the face of it. Redirect questions into questions. People will try to corner you publicly. Why'd you do that? What are you working on? Where do you stand? Don't answer directly. Ask, why does that interest you? Wouldn't it be smarter if I didn't say? Now the attention shifts. The power flips. They're on defense, explaining themselves. You're shaping the moment without giving anything away. Because the one who answers follows the tempo, but the one who asks owns the frame. Use micro movements to create psychological pressure. You don't need big gestures or loud energy. The Machiavellian method uses minimalism to intimidate. A slow sip of water after someone finishes ranting. A glance that lingers a moment too long. A smirk when someone else tries to prove something. These tiny moves don't shout. They imply. They say, I already understand more than you think. And because people can't decode you, they start shifting, subtly, trying to match you. That's power, not in words, in presence. Praise the powerful strategically. You already know not to criticize up the hierarchy in public, but what would Machiavelli do? He'd praise, but not just to flatter, to protect himself. You don't say he's amazing. You say his timing is always perfect, or you can feel it when she walks into a room. She barely has to speak. Sharp, specific, subtle. Because powerful people remember who protects their image, and when you do it with finesse, you become a ghost ally. You get their shield without bowing, and that means you're covered, but still dangerous. Never reveal who you're watching. In public, you seem casual, relaxed, but in truth, you're tracking everything. Who's overcompensating? Who's subtly competing? Who mirrors you, hoping you won't notice? Machiavelli would scan the room without letting the room know it was being scanned. Because the real power isn't in being seen, it's in seeing without being noticed. The person who watches everything is feared, but the one who watches silently? Unstoppable. Now you know who's insecure, who's desperate, who's pretending. That's data, and data gives you leverage on your timeline. Respond to disrespect with calculated absence. Someone cuts you off, undermines you, tries to get under your skin. Don't correct them, don't retaliate, withdraw. Not from the conversation, from them. Redirect your energy. Speak to someone else. Change the tempo. You don't need to scold them. You just need to remove their access to your attention. And when you do it without flinching, the entire room feels it. The disrespectful one suddenly looks small, desperate. And while they scramble to win back your attention, you've already moved on. You don't punish them. You let their insecurity punish itself. Drop phrases that echo in their heads long after you're gone. You don't need long speeches. You just need one line they can't stop replaying. You'll understand later. Power doesn't respond. It observes. Sometimes silence is louder than shouting. Say it in passing, calm, no emphasis, but they feel it, and they'll think about it for days. That's how you stretch your influence beyond the moment. Your words become ritual, replayed, remembered. Let public spaces turn you into a riddle. Most people enter a room hoping to be noticed. You walk in and become a contradiction. Warm smile, cold tone, engaging, then detached. Polite, but unreadable. That dissonance, the feeling that they can't quite figure you out, it keeps their minds hooked. You're no longer just a man. You're a force they're trying to name. And that's exactly where Machiavelli would want you. Control eye contact like a weapon. There are two ways to break someone without touching them. Hold eye contact until they break, or refuse to look at them at all. Machiavelli understood this long before psychology gave it a name. Your gaze isn't about confidence, it's about positioning. When someone tries to bait you, hold eye contact calmly, not intensely, just without flinch. Eventually, they'll look away, and the room will notice. And if someone beneath you tries to provoke you, don't even acknowledge their presence. Not with arrogance, just cold indifference. That's how you erase people socially without saying a word. Respond to provocation with elegant redirection. The strongest person in the room isn't the one who wins the argument. It's the one who never joins it. When someone tries to mock you, corner you, call you out, smile faintly. Change the topic. Keep your rhythm. Let their aggression look childish against your calm. And once people realize they can't bait you, they stop trying. Now you don't just control yourself, you control the emotional temperature of every room you enter. Build a myth around your absence. The most powerful moments of public influence happen when you're not there. If you've crafted your image with enough mystery, people start talking about you. You leave quietly, you say little, you reveal less, but you move with such control, they feel it. What's he working on? He didn't flinch once. I heard he's building something big. That's the myth taking root. To fuel it, be just slightly less available than expected. Arrive late, leave early. Say just enough to spark curiosity. You want your name to land with a pause, a raised eyebrow, a quiet respect. Because legends don't shout, they echo. Let others defend you in public. Most people rush to their own defense. Machiavelli would never. Because the moment you defend yourself, you validate the accusation. Instead, he trusted in the alliances he'd built, and in the atmosphere his presence created. You must do the same. Speak with such precision that others quote you. Move with such stillness that people protect your silence. If someone questions you publicly, don't react. Just say, they're entitled to their view. Then go still. Let the room defend you. You just watch. That's how rulers operate. They don't fight rumors. They let the myth correct itself. Master the exit. Machiavelli believed timing was the hidden engine of power. You can say the right thing at the wrong moment and lose everything. You can win the room, then ruin it by overstaying. So learn this. Leave while interest is still rising. Walk out mid-conversation. Offer a reason that sounds simple, but feels mysterious. I've got to handle something. Let's finish this later. That's a good place to pause. Then leave. Let them talk. Not about what you said, but why you left when you did. You're no longer just a participant. You're the presence that lingers after the room is empty. Machiavelli didn't just teach tactics. He taught atmosphere. Your job isn't to impress people in public. It's to disturb their certainty, to ignite their imagination, to become the figure they can't explain, but can't forget. Because in the end, restraint is half the art. The other half is precision. Now you don't just walk into a room with presence. You destabilize the entire room without saying a word. You're not just protecting your image. You're installing your legend